announcements stories, there is concern and criticism about the proliferation of universities, particularly in the face of challenges in existing institutions, from lack of funding to infrastructure deficiency to brain drain, amongst others. There are also worries that the rapid increase in private university approvals could strain the education system and potentially undermine the quality of education. Despite these concerns, the National Universities Commission, NUC, recently issued provisional licenses to 11 new private universities. The NUC says these fresh university licenses are provisional, meaning that the universities will operate for a 3-year probationary period before receiving substantial licenses. Well, joining us on Newsnight is one of the school proprietors who just got their licenses from the National Universities Commission, Isaac Balami, proprietor of Isaac Balami University of Aeronautics and Management, and also an aviation expert. Thanks for joining us tonight, Isaac. Glad to have you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, join us here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, just like I read a while ago, you heard it. Critics are of the opinion that that what we have now are, in quote, glorified secondary schools instead of universities. Why give more licenses to universities? How do you respond to them?
Well, for us, I don't know about any other person or any other organization. The Isaac Balami University was birthed out of sheer passion for Nigeria and, of course, for Africa. At the age of 25, I was privileged to be elected as the national president of aircraft pilot and engineers, and I was the president for about 8 years. And in these 8 years, I had the privilege to work with about 6 to 7 aviation ministers. With that platform, I was able to access different parts of the world in terms of aviation conference, seminars, workshops, and I saw the deficit. When Aero sponsored me to Kansas in Wichita to do my manufacturer's course, I saw what learning was all about. How you can build aircraft, assemble these things, and today almost 90% of my classmates in other parts of the world are building aircraft. They're doing great things. And they weren't even the best in the class while I was in the US. Some of us were top in the class. So what we did was, before we applied to get the NUC license to float a university, already our partner, we have 7-star Global Hangar, where we're the first private independent in the entire West and Central Africa with the largest up-spec. We've done over 60 aircraft C checks and D checks, heavy aircraft maintenance, including the aircraft that the president flies, the AW139, and is flying successfully. For the first time in Africa, local Nigerians were able to get the manufacturer in Canada to tear the engine of the Pratt & Whitney engine apart, to install a thermocouple in it. For the first time, that was done in Nigeria, in Africa. Today, over 3,000 Nigerian aircraft engineers on Boeing, Airbus, Embraer, Gulfstream, Sikorsky, Bell, I can go on, have gotten type course that I could remember aero contractors in those days paying up to $100,000 for me to do in America in just 6 weeks to 8 weeks. And that we've done up to 3,000 through Leadstream, our sister company, in Lagos. And we felt if we can do this, which I don't think Ethiopia or Kenya or South Africa or Morocco or Kenya has turned up such number of certified aircraft engineers on type. I felt, okay, why don't we just go all the way to get a university where what took me 20 years to learn as a young guy, living Zaria, going to the US, doing my master's in the UK, and now wrapping up my PhD in America, what can we do that within 5 years, if you come to the Isaac Balami University of Aeronautics, the university is in Oshodi, close to the airport, and the students have access to the hangar. We have aircraft for training, whether for piloting or for aerospace design. And in 5 years, what took me 20 years to learn in the industry, we can give to our sons and daughters in just 5 years. And how? Every year, aside the Ramadan fast holiday and the Christmas holiday, this student will have access to the hangar every weekend and every other holidays. And when they are graduating, every year they have about 1,500 hours on a live aircraft login. Do you know what is aircraft engine change, engine overhaul, landing gear, airframe, structural repair, sheet metal works? And by the time your son or daughter is graduating from the Isaac Balami University of Aeronautics, the person has up to 7 to 10,000 hours on a live aircraft. Now, not Embry-Riddle, not Cranfield in the UK can give you that. 2, you're finishing with your pilot license, with your NCAA Nigerian license, and with your European license. And because we already have the license to train engineers on Boeing, Airbus, recognized by the manufacturer of those aircraft, it means that our children can also now have those foreign certifications. It means that from the day you are graduating, you're already employable and in good amount of money. So it is not a dream, it's not what we intend to do. This is what we've been doing. NUC has just only given us a platform and recognized our effort at the university level.
You've already delved into this issue of specifics. There's this idea, which is what you're talking about already, of creating what you will call specific or grey untouched areas, like the University of Aeronautics and Management. You've pointed out some of them, but let's take it deeper. How will this influence, affect, or what will this do for our education system in terms of specifics?
You see, in terms of specific, and that is why we deliberately coined the name as Aeronautics and Management. And this is purely birthed out of the gap that exists currently. Today we have issues with management. No airline today in Nigeria has a lifespan of more than 10 years. Check it from Okada, Nigerian Airways till date. After 10 years, check their history, they have issues. And it falls back to management. Yeah, there are challenges in terms of corporate culture, corporate governance, and then the hostile environment with multiple taxation, like AOC owners have complained. But however, you have a captain or an engineer who just fix aircraft engine, fix aircraft, or take off land with an aircraft, and then boom, he's the MD of an airline. He's not trained to be a leader, a manager. He's good with dealing with weathers, taking off and landing, emergency situations, but not dealing with human beings. So this is going to be one of his first in Africa that will focus on not just producing aeronautical engineers, maintenance engineers, structural engineers. You know, we are also doing degree also in aviation management and so on and so forth. But people that will understand. So you can imagine having the chief engineer of British Airways, the head of operations of KLM Airline, coming in to interact every month with the student in Lagos, Nigeria. By the way, we have already about 100 requests from African parents across Kenya, South Africa, and so many other African countries coming in because they want to have their kids here. We also have for the first time now even parents living in UK, America, that felt, oh, the environment is getting too hostile based on religious beliefs and whatever. They want their kids to come to Lagos, and because they feel Lagos is quite safe, we're getting that. Now, what we are doing is we have been able to identify what the challenges are. Having been the president for about 8 years of the pilot and aircraft engineers, having been in the industry for over 20 years now, having been privileged to be one of the first persons that is an aviator who now owns the biggest aircraft maintenance, repair and overhaul facility in the entire West and Central Africa in terms of maintenance capabilities. And then now we own an airline. So we know what the issues are. School in the UK, school in the US, we've seen what is happening in other parts of the world. So we know what the issues are. We are bringing a bespoke, a university that will solve problems, not just give you certificate, but sabi-ficate. Like you call it in pidgin language. What do you sabi? What can you deliver? So
how will this, because you've pointed out there are challenges in the aviation industry.
A lot of challenges.
Cuts across funding, high costs of aviation gas, and of course high cost of people paying quite high. And then even Nigeria, as big as it is, called giant of Africa, we do not have an airline that we can really call our own. How will this change the narrative?
Well, you see, it will change the narrative, and we believe that someday when the government is ready, in 6 months to 12 months, we will have a national carrier. It's not rocket science. The people that have done it in other parts of the world are not more intelligent than Nigerians, and I believe that with what the minister is doing and the PAMSEC of the Federal Ministry of Aviation is doing, I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We might have gotten it wrong in the past, but there are people that are willing to help. And once the government reaches out to them, they will help, including myself. However, for me, we just have to keep on pushing on. for me, if we keep complaining as citizens, and it's not just about aviation, it's across all sectors, it is obvious that the government cannot do it alone. So we in the private sector will keep doing our best and believing that, if you ask NUC, it's thorough stages we went through. It took us 4 years to get this university. There are people that got their license on the 30th of April. It took them 11 years, some 9 years. So it's not an easy one, We'll keep doing our best, and we believe that the government, like TED Fund, who were told only fund public universities, in the future, like other parts of the world, maybe private institutions will also get support from TED Fund, and also private, and then also investors can also key into it, because it is needed to make the country get to where it needs to be. And we cannot just play with it. You can play around it. You can say you don't like this person's face or that person's face. But if you don't do it, the country will keep going down. And we will keep doing our best as far as we are concerned. And we believe that it will count someday and we'll be recognized.
All right. Explain the probationary periods, because you're giving 3 years probationary periods. What is government supposed to be doing within these years? Will the government even have the will to shut down those who don't meet or conform to the standards? Because I guess that will be one of the reasons they're giving probationary period.
Before we made up our mind to apply for a university license, at least I've gone around 10 founders of universities, sat with them. I've also had the privilege to speak to about 5 new founders like myself that just got licensed. And I've not seen any private university owner that got that license and joked with it. It's huge. It's not a joke. It's not something that you spend 3, 4, 5 years and play around with it.
Yeah, but
another thing also, I'm getting somewhere. You see, another thing also again is that what NUC will be doing in these 3 years, they'll be coming around every month, every day, unexpected, whether it's scheduled or non-scheduled visit, to see the quality of the BMAS is clear. They've told you 70% has to be this, it's fixed. 30% you can play with other things, but this is what you need to do.
Yeah, but then at the beginning I talked about critics talking about some universities being glorified secondary schools. Some universities.
Well, maybe those critics should go and start one and do something better, because today, the best universities today in Africa, look at Living Faith, look at Nile University, look at Bayes University. Will you say they are glorified secondary schools? They're doing so much. I think we should begin to appreciate people that have taken their resources. Today, people that are investing in the educational sector don't do it because of money.
And of course, some say in terms of the number of graduates being churned out every year by the schools. We have so many youths, myriads of youths, so that even the universities we have on ground are not enough.
That is true. As I speak to you now, I think about 3.8 million Nigerians wrote JAM, and I don't think we have up to 400,000 capacity to admit this year. So what will happen to over 3 million Nigerians youths? They will be at home doing what?
Huge question.
So I think we should be encouraged instead of being castigated. People that have gone in to put in their hard-earned money to build a university, why should you call it a glorified? If you feel it's glorified, you go start yours and make it big.
No, but then we should doing something well. When you do something is what is good to do it well.
And I just told you today, Covenant, Bayes University, Nile University, they're doing extremely well.
Don't call those names because they're not paying us here.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Thank you so much, Isaac Balami, proprietor of University of Aeronautics and Management, and also an aviation expert. Thank you for being on News.
Thanks for having me.